Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Des Moines. It has been a while since I've actually played this ship. In this game, we're going to play extremely aggressive and push up to an island very close to the sea cap here. It's going to be a little sketchy to cross this channel here, but if we can make it to this island, we have a very strong position to hold this flank. And just to spoil a little bit, a lot of the enemy team is actually going to come up here to the north, and Des Moines in a position like this is very annoying to deal with. Notice there are no subs and no carriers on the enemy team, so that's really why a position like this is going to work out. Anytime we'd have, especially a carrier, but also subs, we do have to just play way more passive and play more towards in our spawn and letting ourselves just the opportunity to maneuver, really, is the main thing here. We're not going to be stopping carrier strikes. The only hope you have is dodging. And from submarines, typically the answer is to be kiting away. That's really the best way to deal with their torpedoes. There is an incomparable on our flank, which is rather terrifying. Fortunately, he did fire a little while ago, so that is going to allow us to get towards this island here. And now we've found our endgame position. We're going to play the entire game here. You might think that to be a little bit boring, and maybe that's not the way you would want to play Des Moines for yourself, or maybe a different ship would be more your style. But if you're interested in playing some of these very aggressive close-range positions, something like a Des Moines or the Salem as a coal ship could be really fun for you. I really enjoy having these very fast reloading 203s here, even though the dispersion can be a little bit trolly at times. The AP is amazing on the Des Moines, as well as the high explosive here, really. Des Moines is such a classic ship in this game, been around forever, but is still just very fun to play when you get the right circumstances, of course. This is not a ship that works very well when we get the campy sniping meta. It's a little bit tricky to deal with a matchmaker like that when you're playing at Des Moines. But for now, we do have ourselves a very nice position here and an enemy team that has to deal with us if they want to capture the sea point here. So we're just waiting for good opportunities to get any shots on maybe the Yodo here, but also these destroyers. We're annoying with a big hydro range, as well as our radar, which we haven't used yet. Typically gonna wait on that for a better opportunity to either myself deal damage to a destroyer, or maybe there's a cruiser that decides to smoke up or something like that. Maybe I need some just information of what's coming up behind me. Notice I'm always checking behind me here. I'm a little worried about maybe that incomparable sneaking through the middle or something like that. Stalingrad is pushing that way as well. So it's time to do a little bit more damage. I probably could have pushed out here a little bit sooner, gotten a little bit more aggressive. Des Moines, of course, has those beautiful improved pen angles on that armor piercing. So we're going to get a Citadel even into the Yodo there. Unfortunately, he goes dark. Again, could radar here, but a Conqueror is going to be our main difficulty here. Conqueror, of course, with 32 millimeters of armor everywhere, and a super heal means we probably want to be using armor piercing more than high explosive. He's going to heal back almost all of our HE fire damage specifically, but if we get poor dispersion, then maybe the HE would have been a little bit better. We should be doing like 3 to 5k salvos into this guy. 7k is an excellent start here. And I'm not even going to get greedy for our rear guns here. Notice how we can poke around this island here, still shooting this guy, but not getting spotted. So the way the spotting mechanics work specifically in World of Warships is the tallest point on your ship is actually where you get spotted from and where you're spotting the enemy from as well. So if we're keeping that main mast, that top point behind this very tall island, we can actually just poke our front guns out around the island and shoot completely undetected. It's pretty cheesy, I will say. It's very disgusting when you have this happen to you, but if you are playing a cruiser, it is something you do want to know about. It's a really good option if you're playing a cruiser like this and a battleship is pushing in on you here. Now I have to go out to spot him. Of course, that gets me lit in return, and yeah, we take a bit of damage, but it really is just a little bit of HE pressure. And our dispersion's failing us here, unfortunately. We're still going to have a good game, but this is just disgusting dispersion. Awful stuff out of the Des Moines. We really should be slapping this Conqueror for a lot more damage. This is just terrible. There we go. Finally, one good salvo out of, what, 5 or 6 that we got in between his reloads there. So a little bit tricky to deal with the Conqueror here specifically, but at least he doesn't have 457s, which would be overmatching through a lot of our armor. Des Moines back in the day, of course, had 27 millimeters of armor everywhere. One of the buffs that it got, well, this is a long time ago now, it buffed the deck armor and the upper belt armor up to 30 millimeters. So the central plating on our ship is enough to deal with 406s here. So for the Conqueror to just spam HE at us makes a lot of sense, just because we probably would be bouncing a lot of his shots here if he was shooting AP. I'm still sticking with AP here. It is usually better. Trust me, it's usually better. In this particular situation, though, seems like I might have been a little better off with high explosive, trying to go for more fires, that kind of thing. Probably would have had quite a few of those, but typically you're going to have a much better time with the armor piercing. Now that the gearing has smoked up a lot of the enemy ships here, maybe we want to be waiting for our radar to come up and then slapping maybe the Stalingrad or the Conqueror a little bit more. You can see the pen is more than enough to get through a Stalin at 10 kilometers as well. Des Moines is a scary ship, man. Even with some of that bad dispersion into that Conqueror here, we've already done 111,000 damage. And notice how the enemy team is totally stalled out here. This is the power of something like a Des Moines on a very aggressive rock like this one, where you're limiting the number of people shooting at you. It's actually a lot like a brawling battleship. You know, I'm always talking about those, trying to limit ships to only 1 or 2 at most firing at you, trying to isolate 1v1s, that kind of thing. Not allowing the entire enemy team to push and shoot you all at once. That's going to be really, really important here when playing a radar cruiser very aggressively as well. Again, using a radar here just to make sure the Yodo is not coming out around us. Worcester gets taken out finally, which is nice. Notice I have swapped to the HE now because I was getting so frustrated with the armor piercing. I just look at the fire chats that we're getting on this guy. It's powerful too. The thing is, Conqueror though just is able to heal a lot more of that back. If I was fighting something without a super heal, probably would be a little better to go for these fires, but if Conqueror is able to get behind the island, which he certainly will be able to, he'll just heal all of that back. So maybe not the best idea against a Conqueror. But look at this, the enemy team is melted here. Maybe not the best example as far as more of a blowout game is concerned. Those happen quite a lot over the holidays, certainly. If you were playing, you probably experienced that yourself as well. But I do think the majority of the enemy team's forces came up here to the north, and in playing so aggressively, I think we did stop them here. I think if I had played more passive, maybe at the rock on the E7, E8 square, I think they probably would have pushed through and we would have had a much tougher time of things. So playing aggressive can be the right decision. As the Yodo finally does come around just as the game ends. So we end up with 150. Not an insane farm kind of game, but a really interesting one where we actually pushed up to a more classic Des Moines position. This used to be something I'd do all the time, but feels like I get the opportunity less and less these days. As for the build here on the Des Moines, I'm really not doing anything too crazy. You'll notice I was actually running range mod in this one as well. That's more of a crutch for those games where we actually aren't allowed to push up like we were in this one. I would certainly go a little more aggressive than this if I was pushing like that every game. I'd try and maximize more of my damage, maybe heavy AP, maybe heavy HE as well. Could be interesting. But concealment, trying to keep our concealment low so we do go dark or maybe are allowed to push up a little bit easier without being detected. That's kind of the idea there. But mainly going into Superintendent, Survivability Expert, Adrenaline Rush, trying to maximize our HP as well as get some more value out of these consumables is the idea. Gun feeder is very nice on ships that want to use both their armor piercing and their high explosive. And grease the gears because these turrets can be a little bit slow. Things like an Ohio with a full build can actually have better turret traverse. Ohio here with this build has 24-second turret traverse, where our Des Moines here has 26. Yeah, that's a rough one for poor old Des Moines, we gotta say. Ohio's a bit of an outlier though, let's be honest. Something you could run, certainly, is Legendary mod. It's not something I've experimented with a lot these days. It got nerfed way back in the day, so it was much more powerful and much more interesting to use. Should probably try it again though, to be honest with you. Running reload mod could be good as well, as arcs are very bad at 18 kilometers. But again, allowing me to just camp it out in the games where I need to camp it out is nice to have that option without feeling like my game is totally ruined. That's kind of why I've done that here, but maybe I should commit more. That's something that maybe I'll have to try in the future. Also, not running a special commander here is a bit of a questionable decision. Certainly, you can get a lot of value out of Halsey or even these normal, well, more normal special commanders. Halsey is a bit insane in how its power level is, but here getting some more value out of Gunfeeder as well as the Turret Traverse is very, very nice on something like the Des Moines. Here's a look at that armor like I was talking about as well, 30 mil here. It's okay, right? As soon as you face anything for 30 and above, so Republic caliber and above, this is just paper. So you do need to be using islands intelligently, but the DPM here is still no joke. Des Moines can still do a lot of work, and Salem is an interesting alternative where you trade some of your radar range for a super heal. But that super heal isn't as good as something like a Minotaur, for example. Salem certainly doesn't get the full value after 1 or 2 of those super heals are used. Too much permanent damage that way. But taking a look at the Des Moines here, hope you guys enjoyed a pretty interesting little game, and thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day.